Okay, so in this how-to video, we're going to go over how to make all the various parts of the Hinge box. So let's just kind of take a look around here first. We have a left side and a right side. So those are exactly the same. And then we have a top and a bottom, and they're exactly the same. And then we have the front and the back. And the only differences between the front and the back are the front has this little piece here that kind of opens and closes, and then the back has this hinge. So we're going to take all of these one step at a time. So let's start with the top and the bottom. I'm going to delete this whole thing, and let's go ahead and get at it. So we start with a box which is 1.57 by 1.57. So we're going to start with that. So we'll draw a rectangle, and we'll size it 1.57 by 1.57. Okay, so there's that. Now we're going to need to put a tab on the an outie. I kind of sort of refer to this as outies and innies when we make this. Like that's an innie, that's an outie. So we have 4 outies here, and so we'll need these tabs. All the tabs in this build are 0.5 by 0.25. So I'll make a tab here, and I'm going to make it 0.5 by 0.25. All right. And for this, I'm going to need 4 of them. So I will do Control C, Control V, and drag that off. Control C, Control V. There's number 2. There's number 3 and number 4. All right, so we have our 4 tabs. Now we're going to place these 4 tabs on the box. The first top one is going to go here, and we need to make sure we hover across that edge until we get to midpoint. There's the first one. The second one is going to be exactly the same. So make sure always when you're moving these tabs around, make sure you grab it from the center and then hover on the edge until you get to center or to midpoint. There's number 2. This one we have to rotate, and we're going to rotate it exactly 90 degrees. We'll grab it by the X, hover on the edge until we get to midpoint, and it should snap. Same for this one. Let's rotate it 90 degrees. And then we will drag it from the center X and hover on the edge until we get to midpoint. And now we're going to use our bloody knife tool, which is hidden behind this crop tool. So click on that, pull down to virtual segment delete. It's, people refer to as the bloody knife tool. And then these are going to be outies. So we're going to slash those 2 lines, those 2 lines, those 2 lines, those 2 lines. Now this part is not grouped, so we have all these various parts. That's a part, that's a piece, right? We want to glue it all together. So we select the whole thing with the left mouse drag, and the whole thing is selected, and then we're going to group it. And the way to shortcut is Control G, G for group. So Control G will group it, and now it is one solid connected object. We want to red hairline this. Actually, we won't bother red hairliner right now. We're gonna just have that there. So that's this piece here. The only difference between the top and the bottom is that the top is going to have a graphic on it, but the outline of the shape is exactly the same. So we can just select that part, Control C, Control V, and we have the top and bottom. So, all right, top and bottom are complete. Next step, we are going to do the left side and the right side. Again, it's the same part copied twice. So for the left and right side of this hinge box, we are going to start with a 1.8 by 1.8 box, rectangle, or square, I guess. So use your rectangle tool, go ahead and draw that. And it is going to be 1.8. This is really critical that you start with the correct dimension or it won't fit together. 1.8 by 1.8. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to also have our tabs. And so we're going to have a tab there, a tab, a tab, and a tab. So we're going to need 4 tabs again. This time it is going to be, actually, let's not do the tabs yet. Let's do this center line here. So we're going to need a midpoint line. So we'll use a 2-point line, and we'll go down to 2-point line. And we're going to come over to this edge. We're going to hover to midpoint and drag straight across to the other edge and hover to midpoint. Now we just need a little circle here. That circle is 0.25, it looks like, according to my dimension chart. So I'm going to create a circle. Whoops. Try that again. Circle. And it is going to be 0.25 by 0.25. So 0.25, quarter inch by 0.25. And that circle, we're going to bring it in and we're going to grab it from the center and hover onto the edge until we get to midpoint or center. And then we're going to use our bloody knife tool and we're going to slice the center and the top like that. And now we have that little center point there. Okay, now we're going to do our tabs. And for this one, we're going to need 6 different tabs. So, or 6 tabs, 6 copies of the tab. So it is 0.5 by 0.25. So we'll draw a rectangle and we'll make it 0.5 by 0.25. And we were going to need 6 of these. So let's copy paste. There's number 2. Copy paste. There's number 3. I guess I could just do paste. I don't need to copy it again. Number 4. Paste. Whoops. I think, let me see if that copied. Yep, number 5. And Control V paste number 6. All right, so the one on the top and the bottom, this one and this one, they're easy. They just midpoint. So I'm going to grab it by the X in the center, hover to this edge, and I'm going to midpoint it. This one, same, grab it by the center, hover to the edge, midpoint. And then these are innies. So we're going to slice these as innies. So we'll use our bloody knife tool and we're going to slice the center and the top, and it's going to create an innie. The center and the top and create an innie. Don't need to group quite yet. All right. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 more tabs, but they are kind of not centered quite in where we want them to be, and we need to rotate them. So we're going to take each of these and let's rotate it 90 degrees. Select that, 90 degrees. And then a little time saver, we can select both of those and you can rotate both of them at 90 degrees and save you a little time. All right, so what we want to do is we want to midpoint this somewhere on here, but you'll notice it doesn't tell me where the midpoint is because it thinks that the midpoint is now that node there, but there doesn't tell me. And we can't just guesstimate it. It's just gonna, if it's off by even a fraction of an inch, the box won't fit together. So we need to find a midpoint here. And the way that we can do it is we can draw a little, kind of create a little separate rectangle that'll help us identify the midpoint. So I'm just going to go to my rectangle tool and I'm going to start a rectangle somewhere on that edge. And I'm going to drag down to that node. And now if I take this box, this tab, it's going to tell me where the midpoint is because I've given it a shape to midpoint. See that? So now I know that that midpoint is there. Now I can delete this box and it's been midpointed. So let's do the same thing. Rectangle, I'm just going to do them all together this time. I'm going to put one there. I'm going to put one there. And I'm going to put one there. And now I can midpoint each of these tabs. Midpoint that one there. Delete that. Grab this by the center. Midpoint it there. Delete that. grab this one by the center and find the midpoint, delete that. Now these are also innies, innie, 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 innie. So we're going to slice this one and we're going to make it an innie and an innie and an innie and an innie. Cool. And now we can go ahead and select this entire part here because it's made of all these different pieces, right? We've got all these different parts. So we're going to group the whole thing. So select the whole part, Control G to group. It's all grouped now. And now I'm going to copy paste it, Control C, Control V, and I have two of them. Okay, I'm going to move these kind of out of the way here. So we have our top and our bottom, our left side and our right side. Now we simply need to do, well, it's the hardest part, I guess. We need to do the front and the back. The front and the back, the outlines of these parts is exactly the same. The only difference between the front and the back is that the front has this opening here and the back has this hinge. Let's do the front one first. It's a little bit easier. So we're going to start with a rectangle that is 1.57 horizontally by 1.78 vertically. So let's start with that and go ahead and make a rectangle. And we're going to make the horizontal dimension 1.57. And we're going to make the up and down vertical dimension, whoops, there we are, this one, 1.78. 1.78. Enter. And I'm just going to verify that that is the same. And yes, it is. The only difference now is we are going to need to add some tabs here. Let's start with our center line. It's exactly the same as this, but it just has a larger circle. So let's do the center line first, which is our 2-point line. So again, that's hidden in here. So go to 2-point line, hover down the edge till you get to midpoint, go straight across to midpoint, and go ahead and set that. The size of this circle is 0.5 by 0.5. So we'll draw a circle here. Whoops, I did that again. Circle. There we go. Ellipse. And let's make it 0.5, so half an inch by 0.5. And then we'll drag this from center, snap it to the edge, hover until we get to center, and it's there. And we're going to go ahead and slice so the bottom still exists. So we'll slice off with our bloody knife tool. We'll slice off the middle and the top, and we have that. Okay. Next, we are going to create some tabs. So we'll need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tabs. So let's go ahead and make our tabs. Again, they are 0.5 by 0.25. So draw a rectangle. And we'll make it 0.5 by 0.25. And we will need 6 of these. So we already have one. So Control C, Control V, and drag that one over. And then Control V. There's number 3, Control V. Number 4, Control V. Number 5, Control V. Number 6. All right, the top and bottom one are easy to place. So we will snap that to the center. So drag from center, snap to the edge, click to midpoint. Number 2, same thing, grab from the center, midpoint. For these others, just like we did with this one, we're going to place them here. So we'll have to create those second boxes to get, that gives us a midpoint there. So we'll just do them all at the same time. There's 1, and there's 2, and there's 3, and there's 4. All right, Now I want to rotate all of these, so I can either do it one at a time or I can save my time and do them all and rotate all of those 90. And let's just go ahead and midpoint each one at a time. Always make sure you're grabbing from the center. Snap to midpoint, midpoint, and midpoint, and midpoint. And then I'll delete, whoops, I'll delete these boxes here. Click on that, select it, delete that one, select that, delete it, select that, delete it. And these are going to be, we have innies on the top and bottom and outies on the left and right side. So innies on the top and bottom. So let's go ahead and go like that and like that, and outies for these four. So one there, one there, one there, one there. Whoops, haha, I goofed. Those are outies. Try that again. That one and that one. Cool. All right. Now the same thing as we've done before. We're going to select this entire part and Control G to group it, and then Control C, Control V to create a second one. All right. I'm going to move this kind of out of the way here. Actually, I'll just kind of throw it over here. All right. The last part of the, well, other than the name and the image, the next part is going to be to do this hinge. This is kind of the trickiest part. It takes a little bit of time, but you can do it. Okay, so to now make the hinge out of this, we first have to ungroup this part. So Control U to ungroup, and then you'll see that that is all separate parts now. And we don't need this anymore, and we don't need this anymore. Now the hinge is made up of 3 different length lines. There's a short line, which is 0.11 inches. There's a medium line here, which is 0.65 inches. And then there's a long line here, which is 1.0 inches. So let's just draw those 3 lines first. So I'm going to go ahead and use my 2-point line tool. And I want to draw the lines. And I generally find it's best to draw the lines outside of my shape. So I'm going to try to draw. Now, it has to be perfectly flat. And the way you can ensure that it's perfectly flat is to hold down the Shift key while you're dragging it. If you hold down the Shift key, you'll see it's going to snap to flat, or kind of like a certain angle. And we want to snap it to flat. So I'm just going to draw one line, a second line, snap it to flat, and a third line, snap it to flat. I'm not going to worry about the lengths of those lines yet. So this one here, I'll make this the longest line, and that line is 1.00 inches. So I'm just going to make it 1 inch. The second line, the medium-sized line, is 0.65 inches. So I'll go 0.65 for the length. And the shortest line is 1.0 or 0.11 inches. So I'll make it 0.11. Enter. All right. Now, one thing that's really important with this hinge is that the lines are perfectly straight with each other and that the gap is 0.04. If the gap is smaller than 0.04, the hinge is too delicate and it breaks too easily. If the gap is much bigger than 0.04 in between these lines, then it becomes it breaks because it's not delicate enough, I guess. So you have to kind of find the sweet spot, which I've found over practice is 0.04 inches is the gap between these. So to get that just right, we have to do a few little tricks here. The first trick is that we want to draw a line right down the center of this to give us kind of a center point. So I'm going to draw a 2-point line, which I'll eventually erase. I'm going to find the midpoint here, and I'm going to bring it down to this edge and snap it to midpoint. That's going to give me kind of a center line. All right, now let's start moving these lines around. So the small line, we're going to put it right there. And so we can put this here. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but you do want it to zoom in enough that you can see it sort of connect. We don't want it to be off like that. We don't want it to be past it either, too much past it. Right about there or right there, either one of those is fine. So I'm just going to take that. It doesn't have to be right on that corner. I found that down off of it a little bit like that is good. All right, so I need another one on the other side. So I'm going to click on that and I'm just going to Control C, Control V, and I'm just going to arrow it over. And if I use my arrow key instead of if I try to drag it, I'm not going to be able to keep it in a straight line. So I don't want to do that. So instead, I just want to use my arrow key. And that's going to keep it in a perfect straight line with the other one. And that's going to make my hinge work better. So I know it takes a little longer to arrow it over, but it's worth it. And so I'll get in here, zoom in until I can see the point where those lines intersect right there. That's good. All right. So those are the two small lines. Now the long line goes directly in between in a perfect straight line with it. So we have to place that long line now. So I'll zoom in and I'm going to make sure that I grab it from this node. You see, it'll be the four arrows. It tells me I'm going to drag it. So I'm going to drag it from that node and I'm going to snap it right there. And it's going to snap in a perfect alignment. Now I need to just get it to center. And since that tells me where the center is and this line tells me where the center is, I can just make sure that those two line up and it's perfectly in line and it's centered. So that's just right. And now this one is going to go down here and it's going to connect to here like that. But we have to make sure that this distance is 0.04 away from that. So I'm just going to place it there. I'm going to use my dimension tool and see kind of how I did. I was just kind of guesstimate. And I've got it at 0.09. That's too far away. It will snap. It won't be bendy enough. So I have to move this line. The way to do it is just leaving that dimension line there. If I select this line and I use these arrow keys, you'll see it will change to point until I click it enough to 0.04. Now, if you're finding it's jumping too much, the way you can change that nudge if it's jumping too much is deselect everything and go up to here and you can set a nudge. So I like to set it at a much finer, that's 5/1000ths of an inch of a nudge. If you have it set for like 0.01, now it's 0.01. Oh, yeah, there you go. Now when I nudge it, it's going to have bigger jumps. And so if it's jumping too much, which I find it tends to with that, I prefer to set my nudge at 0.005, 5/1000ths of an inch. And that gives you a much finer little nudge here. So I'm going to get it to 0.4 and I'm happy with that. All right. Now I just need a second one of these that's straight across. So I'll Control C, Control V, use my arrow keys and arrow it straight over. Zoom in until I can see where those lines intersect. And there it is. Okay. And I can check the gap just to be sure. And yep, 0.04. See that? Cool. All right. Now, I just have to repeat that same thing over and over and over again. And there's a quick way to do it. So we try to do things smart. And so the smart way to do this, the quick way, is to select the parts that we want to copy, which are just those. So I'm going to go to my select tool, the pick tool, and I'm going to kind of start here in white space. I'm just going to drag around just those lines, just that part right there. And then I can Control C to copy, Control V to paste, and arrow it down. Yeah, and I'm going to check my gap. It looks like that's off maybe a bit too much. So you can kind of eyeball it at this point, but you can always, of course, check with your dimension line, 0.04. And that looks good. Escape. And then I don't have to copy paste again. It's already been copied. So all I need to do is Control V, and I can do it again. Zoom in enough until you can see where you have it. And depending on how tight your nudge is, I'm going to check that again and just make sure 0.04. Yep. And then I'm happy with that. Control V, one more, I think. Maybe one more after that. Zoom in, check my gap somewhere. And yep, still at 0.4. And then Control V one more time. And then this should be the last one for sure. Zoom in. It's getting a little crowded with lines here. Let's check my dimensioning. Yep, 0.04. All right, cool. Now I don't want all these blue dimension lines to try to laser out. It'll try to etch those numbers and that'll make my box look bad. So I'm going to click on each of these dimension lines and get rid of them because I know they're correct. And I also don't know that I want this one here. I'm going to actually cut that. So I'm going to use my segment delete bloody knife tool. I'm going to cut that line. I'm going to cut that line. Cool. Now it's really important that I cut all of this center stuff, or it's going to cut my whole hinge in half, which I don't want. So I'm going to select that, and I got to get in here and get rid of that one, and that one, and that one, and that one. And there is a perfect hinge. It's all good. I can select it all and group it, Control G, and I have all of my parts. So next step is I want to get all of these parts to fit inside my box here. So I'm going to select each one and just kind of place it inside my box. Inside the space of the wood that I have to work with. Whoops. And I'm going to try to get them all to fit in here. And as you can see, I don't have much room, so everything has to just be as close together as possible, but it's really important that you leave kind of a rim of plywood around the outside, just in case, because we don't want the parts to get cut off. So I'm going to select each part, and it doesn't matter how close the parts get to each other, as long as they're not overlapping. You could have it in really close, like even that close is fine. This one. And it takes a little time to kind of this is called nesting. You're nesting all these parts kind of into a space. And I'm keeping a nice sort of area of wood all the way around the outside here. So same thing, I'll move this one. I can move it up into there a little bit. And this one, I can move it over here. Ooh, that's a little close. That's maybe right there. Looks good. And see how this one does over here. Come up some. Yeah. All right. I feel like this has to come up a little bit, and this has to come up a little bit. And really taking time to do this part is really important. I've seen a lot of students try to cut their box, and they don't have enough of a space, a gap around it, and parts get cut off, and then they have to reprint them. So, all right, I've got it all nested in there. I've got some wood around the outside. Everything looks good. I need to red hairline every part so it'll all cut out. So I'll select it all, double click on the pen tool, and pull red all the way up to 255, green 0, blue 0, and make sure the width says hairline. Okay. The last step, and one of the requirements of this gift box, it is a gift, is that the name of the person that you're going to give the gift to is going to go in this space here. So this is the front of my box. So I'm going to put the name of the person here. So maybe I'll just use my text tool. Now you don't want to drag a text box because it's small and it'll try to laser this blue line. It doesn't look good. So I'm going to undo that. And instead of dragging a text box, you just want to just click somewhere in white space and then type. So maybe this is to, I don't know, my dad. Dad. And then I can select that, and I can change the font to something that I like a little better. Maybe like that's kind of cool. And I can change the size of it, and then I can place it there. So that is kind of the spot, whoops, where the name will go, right? And you can kind of arrow it around and get it just right. So there's that. So the person that you're giving it to, that's going to go on the front of the box, which is right above that big half circle. And then the picture is going to go on the top. And the top and bottom, of course, are the exact same part. There's one there and there's one there. So whatever picture you want, maybe your dad's into cars and you have a picture of a cool black and white car or golf or whatever. And that'll show up on the top of the box. It'll look kind of cool. So that's how you do the whole thing. Once you're done with that, you can do the last step, which is to send it to the laser, and then you can go cut it out and assemble it in the shop.
Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to send your design to the laser. So imagine that your design was fully done, right? Mine is obviously not, but suppose yours was all done, red hairline, you got the image on there, the name is on there, everything is good. So now we're sending it to the laser. So the first step is to just do file save. If you haven't saved it already, this will be not grayed out, but it just hit save. That's going to save it a copy to the computer you're working on. And then you're going to, once you've saved it safely to your computer, now you're going to send it to the laser. So we're going to go to File Save As, and you're going to send a copy to the laser. So you're going to look, it'll be on the desktop generally, but you're going to look for this thing that says MMS CTE student data. Once you find that file, double click on it, tap with your left mouse, tap, and then find the period that you're in. Let's say that you're in period 2, tap, and you go into the inbox. And then just to make sure it has your name and period 2 on it, you might even just add the word gift box, because you will be sending multiple things to the laser for other projects. So just so it doesn't get confusing, I'll just put name period and then just add the word gift box and then hit save. And it will be at the laser. You can head over to the laser and cut your parts out and then assemble it in the shop. So that's how you do the last step. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.